All right, let's do this one more time. I'm Lavicast, and here are my two associates, Derpaduh and IanWaffles. How you guys doing today?
Pretty
I'm
good.
doing I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
No problem. So today we are here to talk about Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. We've just all seen it, and we thought, after kind of discussing it with one another, we thought it'd be a good time to have a discussion about this because we've seen, at least I have seen a couple people talk about the, let's say, talking points we want to discuss with this film, but nothing on a major scale. So we thought, well, we could make a little video about it, talking about something other than Sonic for a change. So uh, with this movie, I ended up watching the first Into the Spider-Verse movie, and while I had a couple of problems with it with Miles's character arc, I actually thought it was a pretty good film overall. And I was really looking forward to seeing oh yeah, really looking forward to the sequel, especially since the directors and the filmmakers are oh yeah, this is going to be the new trilogy. It's going to be this generation Star Wars. Um, it's going to be the second big movie in Star Wars. I'm spacing on the name for some reason, but we're going
Empire Strikes Back.
huh?
Empire Strikes Back.
Yes, Empire Strikes Back is going to be that grand, that spectacular. I'm like, all right, I'm sold, and I watched the movie. Um, let's say I'm not thrilled about it, but why don't you guys talk? Why don't you guys talk a little bit about your general thoughts of the film first?
You can go ahead.
Well, yeah. Well, I like you. I enjoyed the first movie. If I have to be more of the hot take
Mm-hmm.
perspective, while I don't think it's a bad film, I feel like it suffers a bit too much from focusing on kind of like the perspective where the main character doesn't get to do his thing until the third act, which is kind of what I felt with the first Sonic movie, where for most of that it was just like a road trip, and then boom, big bombastic climax. And this one, Into the Spider-Verse, I liked it, but I really wish that we got more of that family stuff and the school stuff, because once those spider people come in, it kind of falls to the wayside, and it suffers the plot, all of those plot beats because of it. I don't think it's a bad film. I feel like it should have been a little bit maybe longer, just to
Mm-hmm.
flesh out some of those plot elements better. And I have an issue with how cruel the big, I guess, third act friend breakup scene is, where they all beat on Miles. So um, it's kind of hard to look back on that film and everyone says it's like the best movie Spider-Man ever, and I'm like, is it though? The animation was stunning, don't get me wrong, but hype
Mm-hmm.
it on the animation alone. And in ways, I feel like the issues I had with the first film crept over to the sequel here, um, in different ways, in similar ways. And that's how
So one.
and moving on to the. Oh, sorry, what?
No, so what were one of the issues that you saw in the first film that you ended up seeing creak over to this one?
Well, I guess to tiptoe into the plot of the second film just a bit. Fan of how just overbearing the multiverse stuff is, which I guess is the whole thing. It's across the multiverse. However, I feel like because they have so many things to, because in the first movie, like I said, they introduce these characters and they detract from the main Miles stuff with the
Mm-hmm.
school and his family. They once those spider people come in, it's all about them, and all these like different plot stuff kind of doesn't get to be fully fleshed out. And with this film, even greater, because just to step forward already, like we have Spot that is basically a nothing character after the first act. Um, if it wasn't for that amazing scene where he goes out in the collider,
Collider.
I would probably have forgotten. Yeah, I would probably forgotten he was even in the film, if it wasn't for how stunning that was. We have the entire spider people like thing going on, and that's not counting Miguel, Gwen, this other lady. Spider-Woman, Spider-Man. I am sorry, I forgot his name. We have British Spider-Man, and feel like there might have been another one that I'm blanking on right now.
There are several. Just to break it up. No, there are several. I completely agree with you. Like there is so many things happening in this film. Like it's kind of hard for me to even do like a plot synopsis of this film because it really has two gigantic conflicts that try to overlap with each other, but they're so distinct in terms of like what kind of conflicts that they're meant to represent and all the elements that are related from one to another. That's kind of hard to describe without how to describe like both of them. So like on one hand, you have everything with Spot, and I want to talk about that later because I have my own issues with this. And then we have everything around the Spider Society. And let's just jump into that. So let's start with Spot. So Spot starts out as being like this kind of joke villain. We end up seeing him like jump in, and we're like trying to like go into this convenience store and trying to like rob an ATM and just being completely incompetent while doing so, serving as like not only like a good joke opening, but also like giving us an idea about like what Miles is like as a superhero. So after like the last 16 months of him doing this, so we end up getting a chance to see like what Miles is capable of and getting to see this character, which is fine. But then we end up kind of progressing throughout the rest of the film where it's like we're supposed to be like half sympathetic towards him. Like they try establishing this whole thing of like Spider-Man turned me into this, and it's like, which is a whole thing. And then on top of that, we end up seeing like he's like, you are gonna take me seriously as a villain. How dare you refer to me as a weekly villain? And I've even seen some people try to say like, oh yeah, I would love to see more villains like this that start out as jokes and end up progressing into being more threats. Let me just say this right now. Fuck Spot. Like I can't stress that enough because like at the beginning he was fine. I even kind of felt a little pity towards him because I'm like, yeah, if you look like this, even in a comic book universe, you're gonna have a hard time getting a job. Let's just be honest. And so I get the idea of like he just needs a paycheck. But then as the movie ends up progressing, he picks on what I can only describe. He picks up what I can only describe as school shooter mentality, where it's like he wants to be the villain and is frustrated that no one takes him seriously. So he's like, I'm gonna make you take me seriously by hurting and taking away everything you love because you make me into this. Which I'm already like, fuck you just for having that kind of mindset in the first place. But I'm also saying double fuck you to him because none of it is his fault. Like they try to make it seem like, oh yes, I'm the guy that Miles threw a bagel at the beginning. I'm like, okay, what? How did him throwing a bagel at you lead to this? Well, you see, I was there when Kingpin's plan ended up falling asunder, and Miles was the one that blew it up. I was like, bro, that thing was already coming apart in the first place. Two, why were you there? Like, have you guys watched the last film?
Yeah.
Like, dude, leave if you're.
Yeah, and I'll bring that up because
get a better job. Why are you working for this guy anyway?
Yeah, and it's like that whole scene was like 10, 15 minutes. So I'm like, you had ample time to get out. So why the fuck are you trying to make this Miles' problem? And I want to pass the mic to you, Waffles, in a second. But
No, yeah.
I don't really get. It really feels like this entire film is, and this seems to be a thing in Spider-Man overall, which is what I really don't like about this franchise. The main thing I don't like about this franchise in the first place is that everything must be Spider-Man's fault, and he must suffer and be miserable the entire time. No exceptions. It's also the reason why I didn't like No Way Home, because it also was really just trying to enforce that in the first place. And Spot was just one of the ways that they were trying to do that, you know?
Gotcha. So should I go?
Yeah, go for it.
Yeah,
we're in this conversation, so yeah.
No biggie. No biggie. So with Spot, so I think I have a separate problem from you guys, and it's more of a like wait and see problem, because I think for the most part, like I totally agree with like obviously like Spot's whole thing is that he's being petty, which I think is the point. Like they even have the point where he like goes into the big portal or whatever, And Miles is like, no, like, you're not a joke, man. Like, we all think you're cool now. And he's like, yeah, everyone's going to think I'm cool now. And it's like the idea seems to be, given the context of the film, that it is kind of like Miles is like, isn't it kind of bullshit that like some monster of the week bad guy I'm facing, because that's what they kind of meme on him for, is like, you're just like a monster of the week villain of the week. Isn't it kind of bullshit that apparently I'm just supposed to let my dad die, and it's literally just going to be because of like some like villain of the week guy who I was a jerk to? Like, that's stupid.
Yeah.
And I agree, and I think that is a part of the that's why I'm going to wait and see if I can have a full judgment, because what I think the problem is that I agree that it's like, it is kind of dumb that Miles's whole life is going to be screwed over due to this small thing. However, if that goes somewhere, if that leads to a climactic battle, or we get a little more into Spot, then I think I'd be fine with it, because I think the guy who plays the Spot is really funny. Like, the whole scene where he's like trying to take the ATM machine, and he's like, well, technically it's you don't even own it. I ain't stealing from you. This is the bank's own it. So and he's like just casually trying to push everything around. Or like the joke where he tells Miles that like, this isn't a suit, it's my skin, and Miles just doesn't even listen to him, because later he says like, hey, your suit's a little tight in the back. It's like, that's just his ass, Miles. He doesn't have pants. This is your fault. So like, I can get into the meme mindset of this character. However, given the context of like other things that happened in the film with like the spider cult and all those types of things, I think it does put you in the mindset of being on Miles' side of like, this is bullshit. However, I do think that because they spend so much time on Spot, there was a part of me, even while I was watching it, where I'm like, all right, you're funny. But I'm like, wait, that's kind of it for your motivation? And I'm like, okay, that's fine. But the movie's going pretty long on this. So if you're going to have Spot be kind of like this meme villain, I kind of want him to have a little more to it. Because you guys are right, obviously. Like, and I don't think the movie is unaware that his motivations are petty and silly or whatever. Yeah. And it does seem to be on Miles' side that it's kind of just bullshit. Like, the Spot's just being an asshole. But I do think the movie spends so much time on it that I actually would like there to be a bit more for him, so that I could get a little more invested in the fact that, yeah, this is the guy who's going to kill Miles' dad. He's literally turned black, and he's got the white spots now, and he kind of looks a little threatening. By the time he turned threatening, I didn't really feel it. I still felt that he was more of a joke villain. So I feel like there might be some miscommunication the movie's part of, like, how much of is it still supposed to be like a meme villain is going to kill my dad, and how much is it supposed to be like, no, I made a super villain and he's going to kill my dad, and he kind of gets pushed off to the side. So for me, I'm kind of a wait and see with Spot. But I do feel like even as I was watching it, I was like, I don't know. I feel like I want a little more, So that's kind of my thoughts on it for now.
Here's the thing.
Do you have any?
Oh yeah, Dirk.
Oh, I was just going to ask, like, before. Sarah, I was just gonna say before we continue on, do you have any other thoughts about like the first film, Waffles?
Well, I can go to that later when we talk about some later stuff. We'll continue this conversation for now, but I'll bring it up later when it becomes more relevant. But thank you for remembering.
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead, Love.
So what I was gonna say, I want to agree with you. I want to agree with you so bad. And honestly, if they just kept him as a meme villain, it's just like everyone was just roasting him left and right, I would absolutely be for you on this. And to be fair, this movie is technically one of two parts, so they can absolutely end up saving in the second half and just go like, "Yeah, you're joke of the week, dumbass," and I will completely rescind every last criticism I make towards this character. The reason why why I'm ripping onto him like he's a dramatic villain is because they try setting him up as a dramatic villain halfway through the film, where when we end up getting to like Indian Brooklyn, and he is jumping into the collider and going like, who's the villain of the week now? And Miles is going, no, you're more than just a villain. You're more than just a villain of the week. You are my name. And it's just like,
he almost kills a lot of people too.
Huh?
He almost kills a lot of people.
Yeah. So like, do not give this motherfucker any kind of respect. That's why I call him school. That's why I say he has a school shooter mentality, because it's the same thing with like every fucking school shooter, that the reason that they do it is not even because they have like some type of vendetta towards like a person at that school. They just want to do it so they can feel important, and vindicated for 5 minutes at the expense of other people's lives and at expense of other people's lives. I'm like, no, this does not deserve respect. This does not deserve any kind of reverence. This deserves nothing but mocking and ridicule. And if they continue that, I would have been for it. But they tried making him come off intimidating, like a threat halfway through, and having the characters bend to that. I'm like, no, do not get this character any respect. So I will rescind. Like I said, I'll rescind all my criticism if they end up following it through and treating him as a joke that he's supposed to be.
Yeah, there's a fine line you have to balance with like cringe villains. My Hero Academia has a lot of cringe villains, and usually like the value you get from them is usually due to like the execution or just the amount of time spent on them. But the movie spends a lot of time with Spot, and so it does get a little confusing as to like how much, like, if he's going to be this important in Miles' life, I kind of want to care more. But if the point is that I'm not supposed to care that much, and that's kind of the point, well, then I feel like you should have spent less time on him. So he's in a weird position, you know?
Yeah.
So that's why I'm going to wait and see, but I do understand both of your points on that.
Yeah. But
I'm actually very conflicted.
I think otherwise on a moment-to-moment level, he's quite funny, and his powers are very cool. So he's like a character who, yeah, I'm more mixed on. So
yeah.
I'm very conflicted. Just to expand my thoughts just a bit further, I actually do really love that first act of the film. I said before, I was a bit too much from being the superhero origin center of like the plot, and the first act of the Spiderverse film, ignoring the Gwen Stacy stuff before, you know, the introduction of Miles again. I loved that entire, you know, like Spider-Man. We meet him again, and we get all this like, here's what I've been up to, and I've done a couple of goofs, but I've done a couple of wins, and you know that, and you know, I'm conflicted on the spot because once we get the fight scene between them, all the funny jokes, like you said, the ATM machine. No, it's ATM. Just don't say M because it's machine. Like I do love the whole goof side, and I love right now that we're kind of getting underrated comic book villains that nobody knows about, and they're all like joke characters that people would just scrap. Kite Man has an introduction in the Harley Quinn series. He got a cameo in the Peacemaker series. Polka Dot Man in the Suicide Squad by James Gunn. And you know, we got Spot here, and I love that we're getting all these like old, funny, random villains that are getting revived. And I think the Spot, I think he's great, but it's like you guys say, it kind of works, but it kind of doesn't, and it really does kind of depend on how they follow this up in the sequel, which is a bummer because it's like, how do we talk about this, you know? Because we don't have the full picture yet, and it's strange because I do the visceral scene as he's in the collider. That I won't lie. Once that explosion happened and we got that scene in the following moment, it's like he's going to be gone that day or whatever, paraphrasing. I thought that was awesome. I was on the edge of my seat like, what just happened? But, you know, when you think about it more, and like, does this character work? And I'm like, you know, I like him. I want to love him. But again, I guess we'll just have to wait and see how this falls through.
Yep. So I guess that's good for him for now, right?
Yeah. But let's follow up with what Waffles ended up saying earlier about the spider cult. Because the whole hook of this film is that, hey, we get to see not just the 6 that we saw before, but we get to see like Spider-Woman, Spider-Punk, we get to see Spider-Man from 2099. We get to see like all the Spider-Men in this universe, right? It's like throughout the entire multiverse, and they're all just here being a part of the Spider Society. I'm like, yeah, that's really cool. One problem, they're a fucking death cult. So the main conflict around this part of the film, like we kind of alluded to earlier, is that the leader of the group, Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, he kind of leads his entire group and sees Miles as a bit of an anomaly. because his spider apparently came from another universe, and that means that there's a universe without a Spider-Man. Which, okay, whatever. And
well, that would connect to the first movie because Fisk, the whole thing is that he was trying to open up universes to get to like find one where his wife existed. So it meant, and that they literally show like the spider has like a different code on it. So this was rather it was set up that it was from an alternate reality. There's enough easy retconning things that it makes perfect sense that that's where it came from, because if there's a radioactive spider that bit Peter in that universe, why is there another one? And it even has like a little code name on it. It's from the same people who made the time portal or the alternate reality portal. So that does make a lot of sense. Just to clarify, because I know like some of us haven't like rewatched that movie.
Oh yeah. Oh, thank you for the footnotes. Well, references. So they've been kind of making sure that Miles has been like kept out of the picture when it comes to interacting with the rest of the Spider Club. Like, we don't want any type of anomalies like him in our club. It's like, all right, whatever. But when we get to the proper conflict, is apparently because their computer did some calculations. That means that that in order for Miles's universe to not fall apart, Miles's dad needs to die. And since Miles isn't for that, he's like, no, I'm going to stop it. I'm going to make sure my dad doesn't die to Spot, and I'm going to protect him. It's like, no, this is your canon event. You must let him die. And one thing leads to another, and basically everyone in the Spider Society has to go after him and try to get him. The reason why we call it a cult is because at the end of the day, this whole group seems to live off the idea that the only way to be a Spider-Man is to be in this group, to be a proper Spider person, is to have someone in your life die. And once you die, you're allowed to be a part of the group. But Miles, even though he's already had that, has to have this person die in order to like give him, not even to be allowed into the group, but just to like ultimately stick to making sure that the universe doesn't fall apart, which I know.
Yeah, because if these canon events are broken, that's as they called, then like a world could like rip apart, break, and kill everybody inside it, basically. Right. And if you do too much of that, then that could break the whole multiverse, basically. So it's basically just a matter of like, they call it canon events, but the whole idea is just basically like, don't fuck with the timeline. You'll create a paradox. But in this case, it's a Spider-Man specific paradox. So. Right,
and there are two reasons. And while I know the movie thinks like this was such a magnificent idea to do with this, really calling out elements within the Spider-Man lore in the first place, there are two reasons why this is stupid. One in universe and one out. It's dumb in universe because I have no idea why this makes any kind of sense other than just them hand waving it by saying the computer did the calculations. Because I don't understand how all these I don't care if they try saying like, oh yeah, we have these wristbands to keep us stable. How literally all these spider people, let's be nice and say 500, are from different universes in this one universe and it's not causing this universe to collapse. Or for that matter, them being here, not stopping crime or not stopping problems in their universes doesn't cause this universe or other universes to collapse. But preventing one person from dying is supposed to prevent it. They try setting this up like, oh, when we went to the Indian universe, when they stopped Spider-Man from, when they stopped that Spider-Man's girlfriend's dad from dying, that and making that his canon, disrupting that canon event, that threw off the entire universe. That was causing it to fall apart. Which I'm like, but everything that's happening in this universe that seems to be causing problems seems to be like coming from like basically just coming from like spots effects. So I'm like, why would this fall back on them? Why would this end up falling back onto Miles in the first place? And
which unfortunately we as of right now we don't really have like a concrete answer, and we can only assume, at least I'm assuming, that Miguel's full of shit and he's just trying to ring all these people into his operation so that he can make other people feel as miserable as him.
And obviously, to be fair to Miguel, he tried it, and it fucked him over real bad. Like, he watched his alternate reality daughter die in his arms or whatever. So he has a reason to believe this. It's just kind of a matter of if the second film will say that it's inevitable, or is it something that we can fix, we can work around.
Yeah, like what are the specific details we're not informed of? Yeah,
Are
which
you
is
done, Lav?
unfortunate
Or
right now.
oh, go ahead, Derp.
Oh yeah. So what I was saying is like, which is unfortunate right now, because if you go on Twitter, everyone is arguing as to, well, these are the rules the movie's established, and then people are like, no, it's these rules. Nobody can decide on what's actually concrete, vague on the details right now, which is fun for discussion.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Love.
Did you have anything else to add to that, Lav, or can I go?
I'll come back to the second issue. You go. I'll come back to the second thing. Well, that's a whole other thing, but you continue.
Yeah, I mean, it might go into the second thing. So, so for me, like, obviously, like in any story, there's always going to either be like a contrivance, or just something where it's like, all right, if you think about this too hard, it doesn't make any sense. But because the rest of it's so good, it doesn't matter. Like, if we're gonna do like time travel, alternate reality stuff, Back to the Future, classic movie. That movie has plenty of stuff in it that you could nitpick, or you could call out as like, well, if he interacts with that thing, then how come that doesn't create a greater ripple, or maybe a convenience of like certain things, or for a specific one, his photograph or whatever. The photograph itself doesn't begin to disappear. It's that one by one throughout the movie, his different brother and sisters disappear, so that we can get to the climax whenever he's starting to disappear, and then we have like kind of this progression. Why does that work that way? How does that how does that tie into the other ways time travel works? Who fucking cares? Just go with it, because it's a very useful thematic device. It's a very useful plot device to get the audience invested in the concept of, okay, if Marty doesn't get this to work, he's going to die, and here is a useful visual way we can show a progression of that. Cool. The problem with Spider-Verse is that I could buy like all the kind of the things of like, because I mean, as far as they all know, it seems there is no way. Although apparently that's not true, because they're like, maybe we can contain Spider-Man in Indian's world or whatever, and so I don't know how that works. But I could accept all that stuff if I enjoyed the premise. And what I don't enjoy about this premise is just simply the idea that, because I mean, obviously, Miguel is being framed as the bad guy, at least for this movie. I don't know if they're going to change that for the next movie, if they're going to say that he's kind of right or whatever. But no matter what, I would assume that the second movie is not going to end with, Miles, you have to accept that everyone dies. Fuck you. It just has to happen. Deal with it. Maybe that'll be the movie. But maybe it'll be a little more positive spin. But whatever. For now, I don't see that being the case. So the spider cult is supposed to be wrong. However, my major problem with this is just simply that I don't think this works for a Spider-Man story, because the whole point of Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, like, forget everything you know about other Spider-Man stories, Into the Spider-Verse, the whole point in that movie is that they literally have a scene where Miles is like, you guys can't relate to me, you don't know what it's like to lose someone, to want this revenge, to want to do these things because he's lost his uncle or whatever, and they're like, actually, Miles, we might be the only people who can relate to you. And the whole point is that they have been through those things and they've come out the other end, and the idea is that to be Spider-Man, anyone can be Spider-Man. Anyone can wear an outfit, but it's you that makes it mean something. It's your journey, your own personal struggle. And so that was kind of the idea, is that Spider-Man is like a being of hope and all these types of things. What we're seemingly led to believe in across the Spider-Verse is that pretty much every Spider-Man isn't like that. They're actually, I mean, we even see Penny Parker in the second movie, and she's all depressed. She's like, Miles, it just has to be this way. Even though, again, we know for a fact that they have had their moments, because they explicitly mention that in the first movie, that they have all went through their death. They got through it, and that's supposed to be an empowering thing. Even if you've gone through these deaths, you can still be Spider-Man. You have to find your own way, blah, 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 blah. There's still hope, all that stuff. So when you have a story in this universe where it seems that every single Spider-Man just kind of accepts this is the way it has to be. You have to let people die. You can't interfere. You can't interact, to the point that when Miles wants to change this, I mean, let's say they believe that it's inevitable. then let Miles try at the very least. And again, this is where all the details come in. Because I don't like because the first movie set up this really nice way of looking at Spider-Man. I don't really like that in the second movie, we kind of painted that actually Miles is kind of the only good Spider-Man. He's the only one who is willing to fight fate. He's the only one who's willing to take the message of the first movie, which is sometimes you have to take a leap of faith, even if you don't know where it's going to go. He's the only character who seems to have taken that and pushed it forward, which will lead to a very specific problem later. But that's what we'll give it back to Live. But that's the reason that just premise-wise, I don't enjoy this, because I just don't buy the idea that every single Spider-Man, and seemingly including like Tobey Maguire, Spectacular Spider-Man, Tom Holland Spider-Man, the Amazing Spider-Man, like they're all kind of mentioned and referenced. Apparently, everyone but Miles is just kind of willing to hang out in the spider society, and where we're just jerking off and not actually doing anything on our own world. Like, why are all these people here? Why are they not on their own planet doing it?
I can explain that. Because
go ahead.
No, I can explain that because for one reason, because the creators really like Rick and Morty, because this is basically just the Rick and Morty society from Rick and Morty, right? Am I wrong?
I haven't seen Rick and Morty, but I know what you're talking about. So.
I mean, I kind of get what you're going for. I don't disagree.
Yeah.
And I bring this up in particular because it's the other problem that I have with this.
Yeah.
Because it's the same problem that Rick and Morty has. As much as I love Dan Harmon, he has a habit of going to meta for his own fucking good. And that's the exact same problem here. Because the whole reason this problem exists, the whole reason that they tried doing this whole conflict and having Spider-Man, having Miles like go like, no, I'm going to be me, and trying to like fight against fate, is because the fate is about being forced into the same Spider-Man status quo that all the others are usually forced into. Like
a canon event.
Yeah, and even going so far as to use terms like canon event in order to explain like, oh yeah, you're fighting against the metas. Like, fuck this. Like, the reason I didn't like No Way Home is because, like, I get how some people wanted Spider-Man to always be like the hero of the people. He shouldn't have like all this rich tech stuff like Iron Man. But I'm like, no, I want him to have this because not only does one, just make him more distinctive. Two, I kind of want to see a Spider-Man not be completely fucking miserable the entire fucking time. Like, maybe makes being a superhero not seem like it's that you have to sacrifice literally everything in your life and become a completely miserable wreck. Just be able to kind of sort of be able to save people. But no, they decide to get rid of, huh?
So I was gonna say, like, that's what made Tom Holland's incarnation really interesting, was that he had this connection to Iron Man. I dug their dynamic as like a father and son figure. That was the shit. Fuck you if you disagree, people in the audience. I thought that was the best thing about Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Fight me. He had, and it was a shame. Like, I'm guessing you're gonna say that they do just strip him of everything that made him unique in the third film.
Mm-hmm. Like, really, like, besides not being a reporter yet, what's the difference between Tom Holland Spider-Man and Tobey Maguire Spider-Man at this point?
As far as like where they end up. Yeah. No, I mean, and obviously that was the point to reset him. So yeah.
And they also make him on brand with every other Spider-Man by killing off Aunt May, because not only does he have to lose Aunt May because one parental figure isn't enough.
Right. You gotta also kill off Aunt May in the most miserable way possible. And to bring this back here, I'm glad that Miles is willing to rebut against it. Say like, nah, I'm not going to do all the stuff. I'm going to do what I can to fight against being just like every other fucking Spider-Man, just being a miserable sack of shit. Which, props to him.
Very cool training moment.
Yeah. Oh, exactly. But I don't like the fact that they have to throw every Spider-Man under the bus in order to do this.
Yeah.
And I really want to hand the mic to you for this one, Waffles, especially when it comes to basically fucking over Peter B. Parker in the process.
Yeah, so this is kind of where my big thing is. It's like I like it because, again, obviously the Spider Cult is meant to be like, or at least Miguel is definitely meant to be the bad guy, obviously. But in the process, they kind of drag every other Spider-Man in with them, which I don't inherently like, because I think, well, the whole point of Spider-Man is that he would overcome these adversities. Are we going to get a redemption for every single one of these Spider people? Obviously not. Or if we do, it's got to be very rushed. So, Spider-Man's supposed to hit a low point and then come out of it. That's kind of the idea. So it kind of feels weird that it's only Miles. But I could forgive all that. I could say, all right, sure, they say it's Spectacular Spider-Man there. Sure, they say it's the Amazing Spider-Man. Sure, they say it's Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. But fuck them, they're wrong. I'll just ignore it. They're just in the background. Who cares? But the big problem is that within the universe of Into the Spider-Verse with this Miles, Peter B. Parker. And Peter B. Parker, the great thing about his character in the first movie is he was sort of the deuteragonist to Miles, where the whole point of that movie is that there was a perfect Spider-Man, a Spider-Man who got his shit together, figured everything out. He had a great life. And in the process of kind of trying to protect Miles, who was kind of being thrown into this or whatever, and not completely, he still just kind of got beat by Kingpin, but because it was a big dastardly plot and all that stuff. But he ends up dying, and so Miles feels like he has to fulfill that role of being the ideal, perfect Spider-Man. And meanwhile, you have a separate Peter Parker, Peter B. Parker, and he is like the ultimate culmination of all the bad shit that can happen to Spider-Man. Aunt May dies, Uncle Ben dies. He's not with MJ. I think Gwen dies in his universe. He's a little overweight, all that kind of stuff. He's just kind of living off pizza and can't pay rent, all that stuff. So he's supposed to be the Peter Parker who's the opposite of the one at the start. And through him having to help Miles be a better Spider-Man, he then grows into the Spider-Man he needs to be, and he goes through a character arc, and Miles helps him. And so they literally have this whole they feed into each other, and they both become better Spider-Men. So Peter B. Parker was like a big deal in the first movie. Even going so far as he teaches the lesson that Miles, you have to take a leap of faith. You don't know when you're going to be ready, but that's just when you just have to do it, and that inspires Miles. And then that you have this great moment where Peter's about to go back to his world and he clings on to Miles. He's like, Miles, what if I can't do it? He's like, of course you can do it. It's just a leap of faith. And he's like, all right. And then he lets him go. And then we find that he gets his life back together in this movie, and at the end of that movie. So that's a character, really great. They did such a good job with him. He tied in the Miles perfectly, wonderful dynamic. What do they do with him in this movie? All right, cool. He has a kid, adorable, great, that's awesome. So what else? Well, for the whole movie, he just kind of doesn't help. He doesn't help. He doesn't help Miles. He tries to break it to him. He tries to be like, come on, Miles. Things. Bad things happen, but good things can happen. But one, tying into his whole character, leap of faith, you just feel like Peter would be on his side and want to help him immediately. But let's take out the Peter buys into this bullshit. He buys into the idea of, whatever is going on. There's nothing we can do. Okay. And obviously they have proof that this happens. If you try to change things, people die. So, okay. But then if that's the case, I don't know why Peter's just like hanging out here like it's nothing and just like bringing his daughter around and we're just hanging out at Spider-Man HQ. Like, I feel like even if you accepted that you have to let these people die, it just doesn't really make any sense that he's just so nonchalant about it. But the biggest thing that, even if I give, a bunch of leeway to that, the biggest thing is that Miguel, Spider-Man 2099, is absolutely like pretty much borderline trying to kill Miles. And even if you don't agree with that, he is beating the shit out of him. He's sending an army after him. He's bashing him into a wall. He's trying to break him in. He's literally a vampire, so we don't know what the fuck he's going to do. He thinks Miles is expendable as an anomaly. So all this stuff is happening, and all Peter can do the entire movie is either, one, go like, I'm a pretty good teacher. I taught him that. While Miles is being like chased and almost dying. So defending himself is like a great teacher. So being self-centered. And two, he is just not helping. All he does with Miguel is go, Miguel, come on, man. Come on, man. Don't beat the shit out of Miles. He's just a kid. Come on, man. And that's what he does the whole movie is, come on, man. Even to the point where it's so bad that Miles is in the little teleporter and Miguel is trying to rip him out. And Peter's like standing back there, like they're not holding him down, being like, you guys are traitors, you're trying to help him. No, he could do anything to help Miles. And the person who helps Miles is a random tech lady. She's probably like one of the spider people who just has empathy for him and goes, all right, I'll let him teleport away.
That one scene before this.
So some random lady has more empathy to the plight of Miles and wanting to help him than fucking Peter B. Parker, who was his mentor and like brother figure in the first movie. And to me, that's where like the spider cult, like any grace I could give it as like, oh, it's contrived, but it's the premise. That's fine. I can accept that because it goes really good places. Or, okay, it's kind of throwing the idea of Spider-Man under the bus, but I could just ignore that because, you know, these technically don't have to be the Spider-Man that I know from the other movies. I could disassociate. But you cannot disassociate that this is the Peter Parker from the first movie, and he has been assassinated as a character to literally the point that at the end of the movie, they just come to him like, Peter, you want to come help Miles? And he's like, yeah, okay, I probably should. Yeah, I kind of felt bad. Oh, man. And it just completely makes me like dislike this character. So that's my big rant. So go ahead.
Yeah, like this is what I was talking about before, where I said in the first film, I had an issue with how they all beat on Miles for a scene just so he can be sad and then have an arc, after that. I did not like that scene because it feels forced. It does not feel natural. It really does feel like, hey, we need this plot beat to happen to move forward. How do we do it naturally? I don't know. Just we need it to happen now. So they're all gonna beat on him and then talk with their back turned, and now he's gonna be frowny face and leave. And in this film, it's like the same issue, but it retroactively kind of makes the characters a little bit worse. And like you said, it does assassinate Peter, and it's a shame because while we don't get much time with Penny, Poker, Noir, and
those two aren't even
last
two aren't even in the film until the last 5 seconds.
Yeah, they're not even in the film until the last minute. And Penny gets one scene here, but not even just talking about those three, who don't even do anything until the end. And it's just a cameo, motherfucking cameo. Like Spider-Gwen, oh my god, Jesus, and like you said, the Peter B. Parker got absolutely ruined here, where he's just like, look at the baby, look at the funny baby, you want to hold the baby. What's that? You're being attacked? I don't stress baby, hold the baby. It's like it's trying to be funny, but like this is not what we should be doing with this character. Like, why are we doing this? This should be like a bonus like joke, not the main thing. And it's just a shame because they really did ruin the character a bit, and it hurt. They were great characters in the first film, and to see him here just blindly following the cult without having any thinking until the end in a unsatisfying moment where they all just decide to help with no in-between scene. Like they all just like, yep, we switch teams now because the moral, the tone of the movie is shifted and we're all team good guy now. It sucks. I that bugged me so much watching the film. But you, Lav?
No, I completely agree with you on this. Those were my two big problems with this, like with the film overall, was just like everything around Spot. Hopefully I can see that easily turning back around. All I need the movie to do is just go like, get out of my face, go on the week, and I just will be completely fine with that. But this, on the other hand, they try hand waving it, like you guys said. They try giving it a pass by the end of the film where Peter's like, yeah, you know what, I'll go help him out. But it's like, why did you need that scene? This should have been where you were at the beginning. And like you guys were talking about with like Spider, her name is Spider-Bite, by the way. Instead of it being her, it should have been Peter going up. It should have been Peter and possibly even Gwen fighting against Miguel while Miles is getting teleported back versus this. But I think the only reason that they did that is because they wanted to make sure that they wanted to make sure at least one of them had like a proper wristband, be able to teleport back and forth between the two. But even then, between universes. But even then, I'm like, I don't think it was worth. I rather just had Spider-Punk be able to build 2 of those damn wrist teleporters versus just one and throwing both of these characters under the bus in the process. Like, really, Peter should have been the one being more proactive about this.
Yeah, my big fix for it would just be not to have him in the movie and have it be that he is like the stinger character of like Gwen's rallying all the Spider-Man, we're gonna come save you, Miles, or whatever, because they realize he's in the alternate timeline, and then you have like her kind of be like, I don't know if he could be dead, he could be like some bad could happen, and then like Peter puts like his hand on her shoulders, like, that kid's tough, he'll be fine, let's go get him. It's like, oh shit, Peter Parker's back, let's go. I think that to me that would have just been a better, because legitimately, like you don't need him in the film. He literally does not do anything. So like you could just cut him, and like we don't have to restructure anything in the film, because you can literally just have Gwen fulfill, and I think rightly so. You could have Gwen fulfill that role of like, well, Peter, sometimes bad things happen, you just gotta let it. Because here's what. So, Derp, I seem to think that you didn't like. You also kind of lumped Gwen in with Peter, as far as like not doing anything. I will defend Gwen completely, because here's why. The movie, I'm going to talk about a positive thing. The first 20 minutes of this movie is basically like a Spider-Gwen short film, and it's wonderful. It does a great job of establishing her struggle with feeling guilt over her Peter's death, her relationship with her father. It looks gorgeous. I mean, you can just look at it. And then you have this great, like, it does a great job of introducing the multiverse with this kind of like Shakespearean Vulture, and like he's drawn really differently and cool.
That was cool. That was
cool. The whole action scene super fun. She has a bunch of like fun quips with her that gives her like a good personality. She's kind of got like more, not a dry wit, but kind of just more of like a lazy way of like mocking you, like, hey bro, you doing okay? We get you home, like that kind of thing. She's got it. So she's got a unique vibe.
And while we're talking of,
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, while we're talking about that scene, by the way, the music that plays there is so good. I listened to this. I think I listened to the soundtrack like when I got home. Some of the music in this film is so. That is probably one of the best aspects of this movie. It's just the music is so bop. It was hard not to tap my feet while I was watching the movie.
Yeah, no, I mean visually and musically, obviously, I think everyone agrees it looks great. But yeah, so then with Gwen, we have this we have this pretty heart-wrenching scene of her where she's talking with her dad, and he's conflicted on to whether like, 'cause he thinks like she's a criminal. He also like thinks like she murdered Peter. He's also like conflicted with like just like being a father and just kind of letting it go, but also being like, well, I taught to like, you obey the law, you got to do the rules or whatever, so I have to arrest you, and all these different things. And then also like she's panicking, and he's like trying to not think about it. So as far as she's concerned, when she leaves, like her dad not only seems to hate her, at worst, at best he seems to be terrified of her, and also he's got a gun to her, and is like, if you move all these things. So she's also like seeing him as like, he could have killed me if I didn't do exactly what he said. So, and then as she goes in with all this, they have threatened her with like, if you fuck this up, we're going to send you back home. You don't want to go home, do you? So Gwen's like, literally, I think she's like 15. So to me, Gwen is like entirely like excusable for pretty much like 99% of the movie. I think the only time where they should have had her step in, just like not even from like a you're a bad person perspective, but just like it would have been satisfying, is have her try to save Miles whenever he's like the portal thing's happening. Have like Miguel almost get in, and she like grabs his hand or whatever, and like that allows it to complete. Because I think that would just make it more satisfying. But regardless of that, I totally buy everything she does, and I do genuinely feel for her. And I really do like that she is technically the protagonist of this movie, because obviously Miles does not get his he actually gets a subversion of this. He doesn't get his moment to self-actualize. We'll talk about Miles later, because it's subverted because he's in the alternate reality. So he tells his mom who he is and what he's learned, which we'll talk about. But he doesn't get that closure because he's kind of in the setup for the next movie. Gwen gets a full arc. She gets a full story. She gets a full resolution with her dad, who chooses her over being a cop. You have to tie that in together with kind of the idea of like, you wear this badge because you say if no one else does, if no one else does, and or if you don't wear the badge, someone who has bad intentions will wear this badge. So you feel it's your responsibility. This is my responsibility. They grow to be closer with that. He helps her out. So you get a really nice feel good ending as far as that goes. And he's even quit being a cop, all that kind of stuff. So I think Gwen is like, as far as like her being culpable and like what's going on with Miles, I totally understand what she's going through. And I don't really hold anything against her for not helping Miles out sooner, because as far as she knows, if she's sent home, that's basically emotionally and maybe physically like a death sentence. So she does not want to go back. Also very obviously, she's also way more conflicted than Peter. Yeah, go ahead.
Like that plot beat, her relationship with her father, and the whole like I can't go home because right now home is dangerous for me. I do like that. My issue comes in with with Peter. They both have to gaslight Miles and keep secrets from him, and I just don't like that whole like that kind of plot thing where it's like, yeah, we're not gonna tell you anything. I'm sorry.
So
And
it's
then
more of
later
like
we
a
get the scene
symptom
where
of
it's
a
like,
bigger
you
problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, it's a
What do you-
symptom of a bigger problem. It's like I don't want to see these characters doing this to this character because this feels mean spirited.
Which is understandable. And honestly, I'm gonna back you up, Waffles, with your rewrite, because not only would it make like you're right, Peter does not add anything to the film. Hell, he doesn't even show up to like last third. It actually would make sense for Miguel to go like, I don't want that clown or that lazy asshole around. He doesn't do anything. So it would make sense to exclude him because he also could be considered a quote unquote anomaly, really helping to set up the idea that Miguel is just really a prick. So no, I would completely agree with you that let him be like in the last 5 minutes. He ends up finding out everything. It's like, nah, I'm gonna back up Miles. I owe him that much, and even getting to see him with his daughter. Granted, you don't get to like show off the Mayday being like a goofy little kid using web all the fucking time throughout the film. But I think it would be better for the product overall and not
just do like
people.
Pixar does and just make like a little short,
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
Yeah, like just make it like a little, like you buy the DVD or the Blu-ray and it's in there, you know?
Yeah.
Like what was Peter doing during the whole movie, you know?
Oh no!
Parenting 101.
Yeah, no. We can't do that. That would actually be cute and entertaining. No, we need to do a short about how Miles is having a panic attack.
Oh, you're right.
Can't wait to see that.
Yeah. So, I mean, did you have anything else to say about Gwen Love?
Nah, you guys kind of covered everything. Like, I guess the other thing is just kind of the trans stuff. But honestly, it's one of those things where I'm like, if you want to have the headcanon for it, sure. But I have more of a, first off, fuck all the bigots. Like, I'm not like, I hate how often every time when I want to criticize something, I am surrounded by like racists and racists and homophobes and transphobes. I'm like, fuck those people. So just putting that on record right now. But when it comes to her being trans, I don't think it's as much of a problem as, let's say, what we were talking about with Tangle and Whisper, where you guys need to be way more explicit about it. But if they do want to have the idea that she's trans be more of a thing, I need a little bit more than just her
being a poster on the wall.
Yeah, a poster on the wall. More than just a poster on the wall. Her dad having a trans flag and her being in blue and pink, especially when her entire universe is incredibly reliant on these kind of like really strong color aesthetics. So I don't really think I want, if I'm going to give this movie credit for that kind of trans representation, I need something more explicit than just them than just her being in blue and pink. So
yeah, I mean, if anything, I'd just say like I think like if you believe she's trans, then like I think the movie gives you enough evidence that you can like safely just be like, oh yeah, like I want to read her that way. And if you don't, then you know it's not explicit. So like to me, it's just one of those like if the movie wants to take credit for that, like if someone wants to come out and be like, oh man, we put a trans character in it or whatever, then you don't get any points. But if it's just like, oh, you know what, this is like you said, her colors in her comic, which I've been reading, like her cover, a lot of her covers anyway have kind of that aesthetic. And so like it seems like it was just a happy coincidence of like, oh hey, we could use this or whatever. So to me it's just one of those things where it's like, people are gonna blow it out of proportion, but if that's the thing you want to enjoy about the character, go for it. And if that's the thing you're like, nah, she's a girl, which I mean, to me, like I think she's just a girl. But just either way, like I think the movie gives you enough leeway either way. So just enjoy it. Don't take it too seriously.
And I agree.
Don't take it too seriously because the movie is clearly not.
Yeah, but that's really the only thing I had. But outside of that, I don't really have much to say about Gwen. You guys covered pretty much everything.
Yeah, I mean, I have one more talking point, not about Gwen, but just the movie.
Sure.
Yeah. So final thing, since we're going kind of from like bad to good, I think the best part of this movie is Miles. I think every single thing with him and his family, is really well done. I think it does. I think it really sells the kind of family dynamic he has. I like that in the first movie it was about him and his dad and their relationship. And in this movie, it's kind of his mom who sort of bookends those things and has like more conversations with him. I really like that his his dad and kind of his little conversation with Spider-Man and like him kind of dumping off his thoughts on his son to Miles, who was being Spider-Man, and him trying to like give him some advice. And kind of them also having that father-son dynamic, like even while they're fighting the Spot, where it's like, you're supposed to be a good influence, well, you're the adult here, that kind of thing. There's some fun stuff with that. But obviously, most importantly, I think like the reason I still actually really like this movie is because Peter's like the big blight on it. That's the thing I can't take away, like I can't remove. But with the Spider-Man thing of like the Spider Cult, I think it is a genuinely like, especially like if you're a kid watching this, is like a genuinely really inspiring story of Miles' whole thing that he's lonely. He feels like nobody understands him. Someone pointed this out, and this is like a really cool detail. In the first movie, he was really big into art. That was his whole deal. But in this movie, he wants to be like a physicist or something so that he can make a portal to go see his friends. And that's like a thing he wants to do. Like he doesn't want to be an artist. He wants to be a scientist so that he can make something to allow him to see his friends, because he feels so lonely that he's like, there are people who are literally just me out there and I can relate to them. And they don't have to deal with all the, they understand that dealing with this bullshit of like having to keep your identity, the feelings of like people hating you if you come out to them of that you are Spider-Man, all those types of things. And he wants to see his friends. And so when he gets that opportunity through Gwen, he has a wonderful night with her. They like do that amazing shot where they like go under the gargoyle and they watch New York upside down. It's a great visual representation of they see the world in this very unique way, and that's what kind of draws them together. And Gwen obviously wants Miles because of the stuff going on in her life and all this stuff. And so Miles goes here. He meets a whole world of people like him, and he finds out that everybody like him is a fucking asshole. And that that the things that they believe, that he should just kind of accept these as the way things are, that he shouldn't fight back. He rejects that, and he strikes out on his own and decides that I'm going to abandon all of these things that I held dear so that I can protect my dad and I can live the way that I want to live, and that I'm going to kind of my morals are going to stand above this. And even though I am so not a part of this group, that like I am literally like an anomaly. I was not meant to be Spider-Man. I am a fake Spider-Man. That does not matter because I'm still Spider-Man. I'm still going to save people. He even says, he's like, guys, it's not just about saving my dad. Like Spider-Man saves everyone. We're supposed to try to save everyone. And they say, well, you can't save everyone, Miles. So for that story, I think like he's a wonderful protagonist. I think that idea of just like the Spider Cult as an antagonist, of representing this dark version of what he is and what he thought the world would be, that ties into what his mom said about like, you're going to go out into the world and people won't like you, people will deny you, and I want to protect you from that. And he comes back stronger. And then the big twist at the end is that he learns all these things, but now he has to literally face himself, like literally, because he's going to fight a literal evil version of himself, and he's going to be re-meeting his uncle, who is also in that phase of his life where he is also evil. And he's going to have to figure out a way to get back. So not only is he going to be hunted by this cabal of evil Spider-Man or the cult of Spider people or whatever, but he also has to deal with like his family life, but twisted. Wonderful stuff. Great. And that all ties into the multiverse and ties into his character. So that is why, like, at the end of the day, for me, Miles is so good, and his story, which is the point of the movie, is so good that I do genuinely really like this movie. I just think it is nowhere near as good as the first movie, which had a tight script. And as far as my opinions on it, I don't have a problem with the fact that it focused on these other Spider-Men, because the whole point is that it is one giant build-up to where by the end, when he's the last Spider-Man standing and he has to face Kingpin on his own, and he takes like the advice from all his friends, but more specifically the advice of his uncle who died trying to protect him and all these things, it all comes together, and now he's become a full person, and all that kind of stuff. And it's, looks great. It's a lot more tightly written. It's very short, or it's not short, but it's very snappy. And so to me, like, my big takeaway is that a lot of people are saying like this one's way better than the first. They think it's like a masterpiece. Not only do I not think it's a masterpiece, but I do not think it's even close to being as good as the first movie. And I think regardless of the Peter Parker thing, I don't think the story of Miles is as good as the first one. Obviously we'll have to see where it goes, because it's literally a two-parter. So all the payoff is going to be set up for the next one, except for Gwen. So we'll see where that goes. And if Miles' story comes to like a really great conclusion, well, then maybe his little character journey in these two movies will be better. But I think for now, the movie I think is way better than this one. I think the Peter B. Parker one is not a small thing you can deny because that it was literally like the secondary protagonist of the first movie. But I still think it's actually a genuinely well-made movie. And I still enjoy it. Now I don't know about these two though. So you have a thumbs up you have a hesitant thumbs up with a slight glare and like I tip the glasses down. I go, okay, but like don't fuck it up, okay, son? And he's like, no, Dad, I won't fuck it up. And so we'll see.
For me, I just want to say, we're talking about the family going from the first film to this one, where the mother had, I think, 1, 2, 3 scenes total in the first film, and like I think 2 of them were like speaking line scenes. Whereas in this film, she's like an actual character and not just like a background character, basically. Which is nice. She's been bumped up, and I think there was a lot of touching moments between her and Miles, especially the scene where she's like, you into Gwen, and then she's like, all right, but remember, you're still grounded, Mister. And it's like what so good, so cute. I love that genuinely. And like you said, the whole Miles thing, how he has to face like the spider people and stuff, and eventually that all comes together in him trying to grow, and he's gonna reveal his identity to his mother, but oh shit, and that comes back to the plot beat of, yep, your spider wasn't from your world, which is very it's a lot of fun. This movie is I have a lot of issues. It's way too spread thin, I think, and they have a lot that they need to flesh out. But Jesus Christ, this was supposed to be one film, by the way. Like they had to delay this, I believe, and then turn it into a 2-parter. I have no idea how they were going to cram all this into one. But
no, this was all okay. Back. They did delay this, but. They did delay this film, but it was originally always going to be a 2-parter. It was
for real?
Yeah, they were planning this to be a 2-parter, like back in like 2019.
I rescind what I said. But this movie has a lot of fun. Pay attention to this because it comes back later. And some of that does apply to the first film, where the bagel, that's a funny goof. That's not really too big important. But you've got that scene that everyone's posted on Twitter. They had no idea what people were talking about until I saw the film. And I refer to the scene where Miles in the first film, when he first meets Spider-Man, spider senses tingle, and Miles goes from having this green and purple aura to a blue and red one. And everyone's sharing that on Twitter. I'm like, what's that about? And we see the film, and then he goes to the other universe. And then, as this ominous figure jumps from the skyline, jumps down, reveals his face, and it's the other Miles. Like, oh shit, I get it. Oh, that was gonna be him if he didn't get bit by the spider. Oh, there's a lot of cool stuff like that in these movies, and it's fun if you pay attention. You're rewarded, and I don't know if that makes the movie it adds a point, but that does actually make for a fun experience if you are an avid pay attention to what's going on viewer. This is stuff like that is fun. I think there are a couple extra little tidbits we could talk about. I feel like we're getting towards the end here.
His thoughts.
But what's Lav? What would you have to say?
Okay, so how do I put this? I respect and even kind of admire how both of you guys have a more optimistic view of how this movie's going, how the third movie probably is going to end up fixing most of these issues that we're talking about right now. And to be clear, I want you to be right. My problem is I've been burned too many times by series going, oh, this will get better later, this will get fixed later. And it's like, no, it doesn't. It just gets worse. And there's more, and to be clear, there's more there is more reason to support this film getting fixing these issues than not. My problem is I don't like giving that credit here when it's not putting enough I don't want to say effort, but is not showing is not rebuking as much in this movie as it should, and just waiting to put them the next one. So when it comes to this being a strong Spider-Man, oh, not strong Spider-Man film. When it comes to being this to be a good Miles Morales movie, I completely agree. I do like the fact that it starts out with him going like, yeah, I want to pick this motivation and study physics because I want to try going meet with my friends. And then he finds out, oh yeah, all these people who are just like me are fucking lunatic cultists who just want to, who just feel like we need to have people die in order to be superheroes, which makes no fucking sense. And he's like, nah, I'm gonna be me. Drops the trailer line and shows and clearly establishes himself as being a proper hero, which I do like. I just don't have as much reverence for this when outside of Miles, it has a hard time balancing all these kind of characters. Like when it comes to the first film, while I do think it did a good job with Miles, Peter, and to a certain extent Gwen in the first film, the other three characters that Derb has referred to before as the gimmick characters, they don't really get that much in terms of character development or characterization. And I'm not saying that they had to, but it just kind of shows that when we're dealing with certain, unless the movies are explicitly going to be focusing on them, they're going to have some time, like make sure that they're functioning properly. And even with the second film, how much they were throwing Peter B under the bus just to keep this cult premise going, I am very hesitant to see about like, okay, are you going to show Miguel being a proper villain, or are we going to come back around and actually pretend like this is remotely justified? Because hot take, it's not. And where are we going to go with and how we're going to handle the rest of this? So I am not going to rip into this movie thoroughly until I see the third film, which I know they said it's going to come out next year. It is not coming out next year. I don't know why movies are so
I believe
into.
it got delayed.
Yeah. I don't. It probably did, but honestly, I think it's going to get delayed again because if it's going to look anything like this film, that is not something that they're going to be able to take care. That is not something they're going to be able to have a turnaround like in a year or two. That's going.
There's also a writer strike going on right now.
So we'll see how this. So I'm not wild about. I'm not wild about like how they end up presenting both the themes of fate as well as when it comes really the whole way about how they end up presenting fate in the first place, especially because it only makes sense from an omnipresent writer perspective, not an in-universe thing, other than them just kind of throwing their hands up in the air and just going, well, our computers did the simulations. Like, I've seen other stories do this, and it makes sense. Like when you're dealing with time travel, like you can't go back to fix something because then you have no reason to go back in the first place, and then you cause a paradox. So that's how the problems end up happening. But I don't get why we need to do this whole like calculations of, oh, you need to let your dad die, Miles, because that's another canon event you need. Which I'm like, yeah, I tweeted about this when I was watching the film. Hey, Miles, you need to let your dad die so you get character development. I'm like, no. So again, it really feels like they were just trying to be meta and respond to some of the criticisms about like, oh, how dare you have a Spider-Man do something different. And I'm just not, and I don't like how they had to throw so many characters under the bus in order to hit that point. So we'll,
yeah, like
I am more cynical about how the third film is going to come out, but I would be thrilled if it ends up refuting everything I just end up saying here and ends up being like it fixes all the problems here. I will absolutely come back on here when that movie drops and go, I was wrong. This movie was great. It was exactly what it's doing. But for right now, I am not thrilled about where the movie's going so far.
Yeah,
right, cool.
like it really does hurt that we already see like Peter and Gwen kind of get a little bit ruined. Gwen had, like you said, hers is more like justified, kind of in this bad spot where they have to be written this way for this stuff to happen. but it kind of hurts more that like these gimmick characters aren't even there until the very end, where they're just like, look, it's the characters you remember that they're here. Remember, they're gonna be the next movie. Look out. And again, Penny gets one scene where she says one line, and it just dips out of the movie until that same scene. It's like they just chose to not help, and it just, I can't help but think in the back of my mind, like, they could be helping Miles right now, but I guess maybe Porker and Noah were not invited to the club. Maybe that's just it. And if that's it, that's fine. I guess we'll figure that in the next movie. A lot of setups and payoffs and questions, because it's a two-parter. But as I assume we are heading now to the ending part, I want to make sure we just tap into as much as we can before it's too late and I have to drop a comment. So, let's make sure we tap into all the stuffs. So, characters that I don't think. What do you guys think of the Spider-Woman? Have anything new thoughts?
I have literally nothing to say.
I will say this. I know some people were complaining about hey, why are you having this pregnant woman going around and fighting people? Then people were like, oh wait, are you going to complain about Peter having Mayday around? And I'm like, yes. At least with first off, it's at least somewhat justifiable because he wasn't at this the whole point of him going to the Spider cult, at least at that moment, was just to hang out. He was not there to be like, oh yeah, let's go into a fight and everything. But by the end of the film, yeah, no, he shouldn't have been bringing Mayday. That's a bad idea. Please don't. But even in the movie, not only do they directly point out that that he shouldn't be doing this in the first place, even he's willing to mention no, he should I probably should be bringing Mayday here, but
I'm a bad father.
Character, huh?
He says I'm a bad father until he brings her along.
Right. And look, I'm not, but when it comes to Spider-Woman, I'm like, at least with Peter, they're willing to lampshade it. Why the fuck do we need to have this woman walk around pregnant the entire movie? And the worst part is they clearly established that there have been months passing between between the beginning of the film where she already looks like she's already 8-9 months pregnant to when the proper plot of the film kicks off. So I'm just kind of sitting here going is she just here to be pregnant? Why?
It's empowering, dude.
Huh?
It's empowering.
You're pregnant. Sit down. You do not need to be I am all for empowerment. I'm all for showing different kinds of people be able to kick ass and shit. You are pregnant. Sit down. You are
Spider-Woman. Spider-Woman is one punch away from being Batgirl, Bruce Timm, comic alleyway.
Exactly.
And it's bad enough that referring to.
Yeah, and it's bad enough that they do this with Peter, but with her, I know at least with Peter, if he ever gets separated from Mayday, I know there's a chance that he can get into a proper fight where there's actually something resembling stakes. If she's pregnant, I know that they're never going to actually show her getting hit.
Besides her, what do you think about the Indian Spider-Man?
I loved him. I thought he was so funny. I love just another easy day as Spider-Man. I could go to school. I don't have to go to school, but I want to stay. Thinking and stuff. Or he's like everything works out for me in the end. No, I love that guy. I think
perfect, pretty boy.
Yeah, I love the whole meme of just he's just the Spider-Man and his life is great.
This is where the traffic is. This is where the traffic is. This is also where the traffic is. This is where the traffic is, and this is where the British stole our stuff. Hey, I'm British.
Yeah, they're the the chai tea thing or whatever. Yeah, no, I love that guy. I think he was my favorite Spider. He was my favorite side character Spider-Man in the movie. Also, good for him that his police chief didn't have to die, his version of it. So
no, he needed to die because you have to have someone die as Spider-Man. That's the only way you can function as Spider-Man, is that you have to be surrounded by everyone around you has to die.
Yeah, that's the big
really
that's the big meme plot hole. Not plot hole, but because I think they'll probably bring it up. But it's just the big if you don't want to side with the the spider cult or whatever, is just the fact that they saved the police chief. and then they're like, all right, we're gonna try to like fix the hole or whatever, and they're like, it might not work. I'm like, might? So you mean it can work? Well, that kind of throws the like, this is impossible to do out the way. And it's like, what are they gonna do? Are they gonna say like, well, we have to kill him now? It's like, so you just literally proved that like you can change the timeline and like it kind of work out in the end. So like.
That part actually does bother me. I talked to Lav about this briefly the other night about this scene, and I don't like how we never get the Parker Pavla, whatever his name is, Indian Spider-Man's perspective on this whole thing. Like Gwen just pulled Miles' hand and basically said, "Yeah, don't help that guy." Miles helped anyway, saved his dad, and we never get Spider-Man's like perspective on like, "Hey, thanks, Miles. You didn't have to do that, but like, you did it." Or maybe he's angry about it. Like, hey, you should have let that happen because is making me do, and I have to follow it, dude. Like, thanks a lot, broski. Like, I think that was a scene that should have been tapped into that we just never got. What do you guys think, though?
No, I mean, yeah, I mean, I agree. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, he's on the team at the end, so maybe we'll get stuff out of the second movie. But yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah, that was just a little weird thing for me, the way they like let gloss over it. I think that was an important moment to happen, but we never got that. Anything you have to add, Lav, on the Indian Spider-Man?
No, I think like I did enjoy him, and he was like just good himbo fun. I liked him. Yeah, I don't really have anything else to really say about him in particular. I do hope he gets more to do in the next film, but we'll see.
Well, talking about my favorite Spider-Man, British Spider-Man, Spider-Punk, the most based of them all,
Oh, of course.
shows up out of nowhere, kicks ass, MVPs that entire scene. Unfortunately, doesn't pull through and defeat Spot, but he pulled through and did most of the work there. And later on in the scene, once everyone's chasing after Miles, he's to quit. Fuck y'all. I ain't supporting y'all. Like, based, the British Spider-Man is the most based. Yes. 10 out of 10. Best Spider-Man. Awesome. Love
also,
it.
I think he plays
and,
it.
Yeah. And comes back later in the film to give Spider-Gwen the watch. He is the best Spider-Man. And he's also British, which makes him better because I'm British. And that is awesome. There was supposed to be this love triangle. I don't know what that was supposed to be about, but it's not here. And that's even better because it didn't make him a bad character. Yay! What do you guys think, though? What are your thoughts?
No, I really like him. He's a fun character. Like, I know for everyone, he's the favorite, but for me, it's more the Indian Spider-Man, but I still liked him. Like, he was a lot of fun. I love his art style changes and all that stuff. He's just got a good vibe. And yeah, I appreciate that at the very least, he's like, well, I'm peacing out. And he still helped us out in the end. Like, he didn't like just completely not help. He just pretty seemed to know that he wasn't going to be able to fight everybody. So you might as well just help in the long run. So yeah, no, I like him.
No, same. I do, but to bring it back to what you were saying, Dirk, about the weird love triangle that they were kind of marketing at the beginning. I don't know why they did that. Like, they even try like having Gwen at one point reference him in a way that it seemed like she was hanging out with him and almost trying to like date him in a sense. And I'm like, why did we need this here? Because by the time he ends up being a proper character in the film, it's not a thing at all. Which that's a good thing. But that just makes me wonder, like, why was this even introduced in the first place? Why do we need this at all? In which they seem to agree and pretty much cut that out. But I'm like, why did we even cut out that one bit where it kind of implies like they were a couple, like they were even remotely interested in each other in the first place? Because it doesn't lead into anything in the rest of the film.
Like in the interview, they did describe it as a love triangle, and my reason to believe my headcanon until we get like maybe further knowledge, because I assume we might get like a update on that by someone questioning it, is that it might have been like an early draft thing that they possibly forgot that got changed. That's my.
Yeah, I mean,
it's
just there to be for jokes of like Miles being jealous, but yeah, like it doesn't really go anywhere. But yeah, no, it's just kind of like a little fluffy thing, I guess.
Yeah.
So unless you guys can think of any other characters, my mind next goes to Ben Reily as the cell shaded guy. I
Yeah.
don't know anything about the comics or the cartoons, so I don't know what Ben Reilly is like. But I'm kind of hoping Waffles, you know more here. What did you think about Ben Reilly?
So all I know about him is because I did a little research, and it's just that there was like a period of time where there's a Spider-Man clone saga, the clone of Spider-Man, and so obviously he has a bunch of he basically the way my friend put it is he's just Shadow the Hedgehog. He doesn't know if he's a shadow android, but obviously this Peter, he does know, or Ben Reilly, he does know he's a fake. He's real sad about that. He's real sad that he's not a real person. Now I think obviously in the comics he probably like either overcomes this or he becomes his own thing or blah blah blah. Yeah, I think for the most part, from what I've seen, people are like he's like kind of spot on, but he's kind of been flanderized. But I think since he's part of the team in the next movie, I think he's with Miguel. I think like the idea it seems to be is he's going to get more screen time. So yeah, I think for the most part he's pretty in character. But yeah, that's all I know is that he's supposed to be a clone of Peter Parker. So
yeah, I think Dirk brought him up because a lot of people were complaining about him being flanderized and like, him being like over dramatic. But I'm like, I was fine with that because it's like, yeah, let's just have a little bit of fun with like this edgy character. My problem is they don't get to make the joke about him being like over the top moody. Then literally in the next scene they show Miguel being over the top moody, but it's played completely straight. It's like, guys, you don't get to mock this and literally show another character doing basically the exact same thing.
Well, that was earlier. I know what scene you're referring to, and that's the scene where he's coming down the elevator, and even Gwen's like, "Hold on a minute, Miles. He's just doing his thing."
Right.
Yeah, but I get what you mean.
Yeah, it's not like a big issue. I actually kind of chuckled at that because like, yeah, why not? But it's like, yeah, no.
But I am. Oh, sorry.
Lastly, I'm trying to think about. Yeah, do you guys have anything else you want to try talking about with this film?
No, I'm good.
Yeah. So like that's like everything I could think of last minute. And yeah, just to touch on the cliffhanger one more time. It really does feel like it was possibly just stapled on to like get out because it really doesn't feel satisfying in the slightest. Just a repeat, like Peter Parker, the whole movie, he is done to help Miles. All he's done is just like, hey, touch the baby, it'll make you feel happier, and you'll be less stressed. Gwen has been very indecisive on what to help with Miles, and just kind of been doing her own melodrama stuff, which is fine because she has her daddy issues going on, which is a nice little plot for her. And then we get all these other characters just show up, and my issue just comes in with this entire scene feels. I don't think therapeutic is the word, but narratively satisfying. I feel like, yes, everybody is joined forces, and now they're gonna help. But my issue comes in with, we don't get a scene with again, like what you said, Waffles, with how we get a scene between Spider-Gwen and Peter as they converse with one another. Like, yeah, let's do this, and he's like, yeah, I probably should help him out. Like, we don't get that, and my issue also just comes with none of these other characters for just been out of the film. And in the case of Porker, Penny, and Noah, they're not even there, which just hurts further for those characters in particular, because I can, the other guys, that they were in the film at the start, and they seem to be pretty chill. I know British Spider-Man, he was team good guys because he's based, he's British, but the other guys, again, it's like they're not in the film, the Porker and stuff, and just, I don't know, I just kind of wish there was a scene of them at midline, and I guess I wish they helped, but if they helped, that would have detracted from the plot they were going for, that nobody is on Miles' side and he should think for himself or whatever, which is I get it, I kind of don't like it because it just hurts the film to me a
Okay,
bit.
I think the best way to fix this, I stand by what Waffles was talking about before, but if they really want to drive it home, this idea that Miguel, and I'm putting this in quotes for a second, that the spider cult was meant to be like, yes, you have to be this one particular way in order to be the Spider-Man. They really should not have allowed there to be like this many different versions of different spider people, because that just kind of drives this weird contrast between like, why is Miles an anomaly other than just this one spider that got teleported into his universe completely apropos of his own actions, turn him into a spider hero. We'll go with that instead of, let's be honest, the other Miles from that universe. But everyone else here is like completely different power sets, completely different people, completely different backgrounds, completely different abilities. So like, why are we isolating Miles out versus literally everyone else? And that could have been a way to kick out to explain why we don't have Peter Porker, Spider Noir, even Penny Parker, from why they aren't in this film, because it's meant to have more of a strict code about who's allowed to be Spider-Man and who isn't. So,
and why Peter Parker also shouldn't have been there, because he could have been a part of that, basically.
Yeah. Because he's too much of because he's also too much of a deviation, because he's fat and has a kid, so it's like that.
Or he he interacted with Miles. Miles changed his story, I guess, maybe you could say.
Yeah.
Or it's just simply that like the way I would have done it is just have it be that Miguel only grabs Spider-Men who are like at their lowest moment. Like he gets you when you're like your most vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And he which I mean might be the implication for like apparently Tobey Maguire Spider-Man and Spectacular Spider-Man. Not the case with Penny. We know that's not true. She already had her moment. But regardless, that seemed like that would have been a great way to do it. It's like, yeah, he can't get Peter because Peter wouldn't agree with this, So, but yeah, just ways you could have made it like go down way easier than just like fucking over Peter and making him look awful.
Yeah.
I also know we mentioned Miguel in passing, but like I just want to say Miguel is so awesome in this film. He's so like edgy, cool, and scary and threatening and imposing and adjectives, words.
He's a literal vampire. So
yeah, he is literally a vampire. And I kind of feel bad because I feel kind of spoiled a bit too much of that action scene, because though that action scene is great, that the trailer showed way too much of it, because when it happened in the film, I was like, oh, that was it. Dang. That's it. It was very visceral, very cool, awesome. But yeah, I do kind of feel that he got a little bit cheated by the trailer showing off that entire action set piece. What do you guys think of Miguel?
Well, we already kind of covered, but you know what? Honestly, I just feel like he's also just another edgelord kind of character. I was kind of on him in the first place. I did like his aesthetic, and I'm interested to see what they do with him in the next film. But I'm very neutral on him. Waffles.
It's very funny. I pointed this out to. Oh, sorry. I just want to say it's very funny. I pointed this out to Lav the other day. He has a cape for one scene, and he never wears it again.
Yeah.
But yeah, Waffles. What are your thoughts?
Oh, I think he's great. Regardless of like the Spider-Man aesthetic around this premise, Miguel, I don't even think is a problem within that because he's supposed to kind of be this dark Spider-Man. So I have no problem actually with Miguel himself. It's just more of like the plot he's put in. Like I don't really enjoy like the extensions of those things. And he's kind of the face for it, so he kind of gets a lot of the brunt. But he fucking looks cool. He's got a great suit. He's a monster. He beats the shit out of Miles. Like he's slamming him into things. Like he has an imposing presence. I kind of like that the way that like he's not actually deformed, but like the way like the shadows kind of paint him a lot of the times. It's usually like his right cheek. It's kind of like sunken in, so maybe it's less of deformed, but it just kind of gives that idea of like he's really just like really dark. He's really depressed. He's really got all this stuff going on. He's got a voice. I forget who plays him. I think it's the guy from the new Star Wars trilogy, the pilot guy. But regardless, he's really great. And I think he'll be a really fun antagonist for Miles to kick the shit at. I'll say this: I don't want him to be redeemed. I don't I don't want him to come around to Miles at the end. I really like, if regardless of how I feel about the spider cult on its own, I actually really like him as a personification of it. As he is so far gone, he does not believe, all that kind of stuff. And so if that's the case, I kind of want them to go all the way through with it. You don't have to kill him or whatever, but I hope he's a villain. I hope you can dig more into it and stuff and give him more layers. But I hope by the end he stays a villain, because I would really like him as, it would be really satisfying for him to be the final conflict instead of Spot. You take out Spot, but Miguel is still fucking pissed off. So I mean, for maybe Miles saves his dad, and then that causes Miguel to kind of spiral and no, I'll kill your dad. It's like no, we've proven that you don't have to do this, and he's like, no, if that's the case, what about all the stuff I lost? Does that mean everything I've done is wrong? That can't be true, And so he could be a good final antagonist for Miles. So I hope they go through with that by the end.
All right, completely agree. All right, so anyone else? Guys, we already gave our closing thoughts. Any other characters talking points?
No, I'm good.
I think that's it. The only thing I can think of is he has an eagle avatar GF, and she's not a character, just a little device he has, I guess. I don't even think she has a name. Correct me if I'm wrong, but she's there, does stuff. But yeah, just I guess the too long don't read version of our collective thoughts, and please correct me if I'm wrong, is we just want and just satisfy all of our waiting plot beats to be narratively capped off in satisfying ways.
Well, and also I think they ruined Peter in this movie, but I mean, if he's good in the next, if he's good in the next one, it won't redeem this movie or anything. But I mean, I would rather you write Peter good in that movie than not. So at this point, if you're gonna have him be completely on Miles' side. Fuck it, have him fight Miguel and get the shit kicked out of him because he feels really bad about it. Just complete. If he sucked in this movie, but for the second movie, just have him be completely on Miles' side, and that will at least just make the moment to moment experience better, even if it doesn't redeem this movie as far as Peter's concerned. So
actually,
if he's gonna be just write him good.
Actually, guys, third act podcast plot twist. This movie is awful. They did not have Japanese Spider-Man in. Where was Leopardon? Where was he? Why didn't he pull out a machine gun and say, "I am the emissary of hell, Spider-Man"? Dun dun dun.
Yeah, he better be in the third film.
Yeah, if they don't put him in the third film, I'm sorry.
Not only does he need to be in the third film, his robot needs to be in the third film. Because fun fact, Power Rangers got the whole reason Power Rangers exists is because of the Spider-Man franchise, and including them having Zords, because he's the first. Because Japanese Spider-Man is the first superhero to have a Megazord.
Oh, okay.
If I don't see Penny in her Evangelion in a mech and fight against Leopardon, 0 out of 10. I need that mech fight. JK. I'm JK. But yeah, I'm a little bit bummed he wasn't in the film. But all things considered, that did not ruin the movie.
I'm okay that he's not in the film, because that would have meant he's in the cult. So I'm good. If anything, actually, you know what? I take that back, because I don't think they're gonna add into the, let's be nice and call them the Spider Rebels with any new characters. So yeah. I'm gonna take that back. Keep him out of the film. Just let it be all these other Spider-Man. Keep him out of the film. Let his legacy be untarnished by being his cult.
He was saved.
Yes. Okay. So all right, let's go ahead and call it here. Thank you guys so much for coming onto the show with me, and hopefully we can go and talk about the third film when it drops. All right.
All right. Thanks for having me.
All right. Thank you guys so much for listening in, and I will see you guys next time.
Take care.
All right. Oh, before we go, you guys want to plug anything?
Waffles?
Sure. Yeah, I'm IanWaffles on YouTube and Twitter. You can find me there. And yeah, I mean that's about it for me.
Derp?
I am Derpaduh, and you can find me on Twitter at 2Derpaduh. And on YouTube, I recently just released a video that is over an hour long that just kind of goes into movies, TV shows, and one comic that I have watched and read in the past months from January to April. And some things I talk about for like one long tangent for 10 minutes. It's a lot of there's a lot of variety. I go from talking about Evangelion to Alvin and the Chipmunks. So if you're wondering what I talk about there's the range of media. A lot of anime too. If you're interested, go check that out. I rant a lot. You might enjoy that.
All right. Okay, then. I think that covers just about everything. So once again, thank you guys so much for showing up, and thank you all for listening in on this podcast, and look forward to the next one. All right.
See ya.
All right. See ya.
Bye.